Shalom everyone, and today we're studying Parashat VaYigash, uh, the book of Genesis, Bereshit, chapter 44, verse 18. It is a very important parasha. We have a few things over here. We have the Yehuda trying to fight, as it looks on the superficial level, with Yosef. And then Yosef reveals himself to the brothers that he is their lost brother. And then the message that's in the beginning of the parasha. Later on, after the whole story is concluded finally Joseph is found, he is ruling Egypt. Let's tell our father that Joseph is alive and he's the ruler of Egypt. Okay. They sent to Jacob, and as it says in chapter 44, verse 27, Vatechi ruach Yaakov aviem, and the spirit of Jacob, their father, is revived, which is a very important turning point in the life of Jacob because he there are many things about it, but the simple story of the parasha is about Jacob being depressed because he thinks he lost Joseph. However, if Jacob was such a great prophet, how come he did not see in his Holy Spirit that Joseph is alive? By the way, the commentators are saying that Isaac, the father, was alive. The father of Jacob, the grandfather of Joseph, was alive, and he knew because he had the Holy Spirit. He knew that Joseph is alive. But if Jacob doesn't know, so probably God does not want him to know. Uh, and we learn that because Jacob was depressed because of the loss of Jacob, he lost his Holy Spirit, which means you cannot have prophecy, clairvoyance, and Holy Spirit when you are not excited and happy. And misery brings only troubles, not clairvoyance. Uh, After that, Jacob wants to see uh, Joseph, and there we have basically Joseph is inviting them. He's saying, 5 more years of famine. You must come over to Egypt so you can survive. I'm in control over here. We'll have enough food for all of us. So in Genesis 46, verse 5, Vayakom Yaakov מבאר שבע, וייסעו בני ישראל את יעקב אביהם. So Jacob got up in Beersheba. He was at that time in Beersheba, in the south of Israel of today. So the children of Israel take Jacob, their father, all their children and wives in, and they take them all to Egypt. So, and then in verse 7, chapter 46, Banav uvnei banav ito bnotav uvnot banav, his sons, the children of his sons, his daughters, the children of his sons, all his children, he brought, Yavi ito Mitzrayim, he brought with him to Egypt. Sounds like a happy thing, but remember, this is the beginning of the exile in Egypt. So we have in this parasha two things. One is a great revelation. Great revelation. Jacob is coming back to life. Okay, the brothers, they have something dead in them because they feel responsible for the loss of Joseph and they have no idea what happened to him. All of this comes to a completion. It's a personal great redemption hidden in this parasha. At the same time, we have here the seeds of the exile in Egypt. They go to Egypt because there is a promise of safety and food, like sustenance for everyone, leisure, and having the safety of being in Egypt, that empire, when Joseph is running the show. But remember, this is also the beginning of the exile in Egypt that brought later on the Exodus. So, one of the uh, greatest sayings is Yerida letzorch aliyah. Many times you have to go down, descend, so later on you can ascend. Uh, Life without dissension, falling, is not really life. If you don't fall, you cannot rise. If there's no night, there's no sunrise. So life is about these extremes, that basically the movement of the pendulum from these two extremes, between these two extremes of darkness and light, redemption and exile. This is what life basically is about, because as we know, for instance, an engine, how does it work? Pressure, combustion engine, pressure, and then there's anti-pressure. So that the benefit of that is the movement. So the movement creates the whatever you need, energy, movement, and so on. What we know, the whole industry of the modern society is based on that idea. Okay, so this is the simplistic idea of this parasha. Now let us try to get into the Kabbalistic dimension of this parasha. And of course, there's kind of a conflict between the simplistic description, which is that's a story, and what is the deep meaning of this parasha. And for that, we need to read, of course, the Zohar, the Holy Zohar. And the Zohar is starting to deal with this issue. Of course, the Zohar of this parasha, there are many approaches. Uh, Let me try one of them. Uh, okay. So one of them, there's a lot of questions that can be raised. Especially, it's why the name of the parasha is VaYigash. The story is that we read at the end of last week's portion, Miketz, that Joseph, when he's ruling the land, he knows there's famine all over the Near East, and he's waiting, he's anticipating that moment that his brothers will come to Egypt to buy some food. Why? There was a drought, a famine. If you wanted to survive, you had to go to Egypt to get some food. So when the brothers are coming, and they come in front of him, and they bow down to him, they do not realize this is their lost brother. The brother they wanted to kill, and later on, they sold him as a slave. They regret that selling. They try to do, the Midrash is saying they try to do their best to look for Joseph. Couldn't find him. They couldn't find him. Now, why? He's the king right now. So, of course, they couldn't find him. But he was not the king before. He was in jail. Short, make the story short, they could not find him. So they have that loss, and the feeling of the loss is horrible because the whole household of Jacob is under the shadow of the loss of Joseph, because Jacob cannot recuperate. That's on the simplistic level. So when they come to Egypt, the brothers, and they face Joseph, and they bow down to Joseph because he is second to Pharaoh. He's the guy who's running the business. And they bow down to him because he's the ruler, he's the king, de facto, okay? Factually, he's the king of Egypt. So, and as they bow down, Joseph remembers the dreams. They laughed at him, they mocked him, they hated him for his dream that he's going to be the ruler, and they're going to bow down to him. And When they bow down to him, he doesn't say, "Hey guys, I'm Joseph. Remember, we had an argument. Now you bow down to me. I won, you lost." Okay? He doesn't do that. He doesn't do that. The Levi Yitzhak Berdichev is saying uh, he didn't want to shame them in such a way. But still, he's starting to play games with them. On one hand, he's showing them happy face, loving face, and he's treating them very nice. On the other hand, he is blaming them for being spies, and he's sending them back to Canaan, and he's taking Shimon as a hostage. So they come back and they bring Benjamin, his brother, from Rachel because he wants to see him. What all of this story is about, but we have to remember as they go through the game that he's taking them through, they start to repent. They do teshuvah. And as I said last week, many times you cannot solve a problem on the superficial level. You cannot. Let's say, somebody is sick, you take some medications, and the disease is over. That's not the way you heal. Medications, they can heal only the outside, says the Ibn Ezra in his commentary on Parashat Mishpatim, when he says Rapo Yerapeh, when somebody hurts somebody else, he has to cover the medication and all the physicians taking care of the wounds. However, the Ibn Ezra is saying over there in Parashat Mishpatim, in his commentary, God gave the permission to the doctors and the medications to heal, but they can heal only the outside. If you want really to heal and you don't want the disease to come back, or you don't want the financial issues to come back, or the relations problems to come back, you need to do teshuvah. Teshuvah means to return yourself to God. And what does that mean? How do you return to God? The moment you say return, it means that you've been there before. Yes, we all been there. We all came from the infinite. All souls were part of the one infinite universe that God created. And there was a night, there was a day, one day. Genesis 1:5 was one. Everything was one. The night, creation, and the day, the light of the Creator. Everything was one. Everything was harmonious. We've been part of the infinite. But then we wanted to play God. We wanted the opportunity to perform miracles, to create light in a place of darkness. And therefore, doubt, negativity, despair, pain, blindness, stupidity had to be created. It was not easy. Whoever studies the Tree of Life of Rabbi Isaac Luria, where he explains in details what's hinted in the Zohar about how from an endless, infinite reality that everything is so perfectly harmonious, a universe full of paradoxes had been created. That was not easy. It took many, many stages to complicate reality to a place in which we lose faith, we lose certainty, we lose ourselves, and we go crazy in every way, emotionally, mentally, and so on, and we go into a blunder of darkness and pain. When we are in darkness and pain, this is the purpose of the creation. So when we create the illumination, the redemption, when we create the solution, when we get out of the box and we create the miracle, what does it mean, a miracle? We flee out and above the box, out and above all of the nonsense of the human brain that sometimes it's our biggest, many times it's our biggest enemy. In order to do that, you need to create faith, and faith has nothing to do with logic, with a common daily logic. It's always against the logic of the past. And as Einstein used to say, if you continue to think like you used to think, you continue to get what you used to get, because the logic that got you into the trouble cannot get you out of it. So therefore, you must create a miracle to go out of the box from, and we learn already, Hanukkah is about getting out of the box, because how many sides the box have? You can move with your mind to the right or to the left, to the front or back, that's 4. Up and down, that's 6. All the other vectors, they are combination of these 6. There's one more inside, and that's all 7. It's all around the common logic. The 8th direction, that's a supernatural. This is above, outside the box. That's above reason. That's about reinventing oneself and even surprising yourself, not just others, especially surprising yourself. And how does that happen? When you go to the 8th level, to Binah. And the 8th level, Binah, this is where redemption is coming from. This is what Teshuvah is about, return. When we return, the Zohar says so many times, when we return to godliness, to the source of our soul, to the 8th dimension, when we return, that's a homecoming. When we return over there, a true lasting healing happens. This is where true solutions, which means for solutions that are real, that are long lasting, that are basically solutions that you can, over those solutions, you can really create the next level. It's all about that. And therefore, the Zohar is asking, so when we have here Joseph and the brothers, and Joseph does not want to reveal himself to the brothers and say, hey guys, I'm your brother. That's it. Tell dad that I'm here and it's okay, and so on. Why does he play the game with them? Because they did not do what he realizes, a complete teshuvah. What does it mean, teshuvah? The same emotional state that brought them into hating him, their brother, wanting to kill him, their brother, finally throwing him into a pit full of snakes and scorpions, and then selling him as a slave. That the Torah deals with that as a felony, horrible as murder, taking somebody else's freedom. As it says again in Parashat Mishpatim, Gonev ish umecharo mot yumat. The one who steals a person and sells him as a slave should be death sentenced, because you take somebody else's freedom is taking his life. And more than that, as it says, Evet patur mitzvot, a slave cannot be a free human being who can perform the mitzvot and connect to God. He's a property of somebody else. He cannot really perform the service of the Creator because he has another master. This is not a human life. The Torah is totally against that stuff of slavery. There is slavery in the Torah, but that's slavery of somebody that created so much damage and he's sold into slavery, but not more than 6 years to pay off, again, to solve a problem, not to create a new one. So Joseph is afraid that the brothers, he cannot solve their problem without them making teshuvah. And only after they realize and they say among each other, well, why are we going through such a crazy thing? We're being framed once, twice, 3 times by that weird ruler of Egypt. He's like, what does he want from us? We didn't do anything. We're not spies. And And then they don't blame him. They don't say, remember that. They do not say he is crazy, he is wrong. They don't go over there. They say this is because we sold our brothers and we didn't listen to his cries. Now we have to pay our payment for that. To remember, why does God allow someone to hurt us, to approach us with an evil intention and bring us some damage? In the book of Amos, it says, would two people go together unless they were meant to be together for good or for worse, which means helping each other or hurting each other? Everything that happens to us is only from God. Why did somebody come and hurt us? There's a point over here. I can call the police, go to court. There's so many ways in our logical world, to solve everything. But you didn't solve the problem. You're dealing only with the branches, not with the roots of the story. And therefore, Joseph cannot reveal himself till the brothers really prove that they really made a change. He does not want them to go on with the problem. Uh, for that purpose, we can now understand the parasha because the Zohar is asking, why does it say, VaYigash elav Yehuda? Because the Zohar says, the verb VaYigash uh, is not needed over here. Why? Because they were already standing together in the middle of the conversation. That's when the previous parasha ends. So Rabbi Ashok is saying it was enough. All the commentators are saying it was enough. And Yehuda spoke uh, to Yosef. Why? VaYigash. VaYigash comes from the word nagash. Shoresh nagash means collided. Why does Yehuda have to collide with Joseph? What's the collision over here? So in order to understand that, we have to understand the concept of real true teshuva. We can understand over here also the concept of Chanukah, because if we deal with the story of Chanukah, we have a story, a nice nation, quiet nation, the nation of Yehuda. That's how it was called for centuries. First as an autonomy in the Persian Empire since King Cyrus. And Cyrus' declaration, the Jews who have been exiled to Babylon by the Babylonian Empire. Now King Cyrus of Persia, he took over Babylon, and he declares, God gave me the order to give you all what belongs to you, especially the temple's menorah and all the other tools of the temple in Jerusalem. Take money, take whatever you need, go and rebuild the temple, rebuild the state of Yehuda. So a lot of the exilers, they go back, they establish their autonomy over there within the Persian Empire. So for centuries, they were safe and sound. There's politics. It's not always nice, but basically they were not too much threatened, except for one great problem in time of Mordechai and Esther, but they overcome, they have nice life. And then Alexander the Great is coming. Some of the enemies of Yehuda are trying to get him to destroy Jerusalem. He does not. He gives Jerusalem and the autonomy of Yehuda another peaceful deal of autonomy till we coming to the Greek Empire, the Hellenistic empires, that based that time in Damascus, Syria. And suddenly, the king, after many, many years, he wants to turn all the people of Yehuda, all Jews, that's what they call Jews, to turn them into Hellenistic people. And in they will get rights, they will get that, they will get, equality, but they have to stop to be Jews. And we have to ask the question, why? Why did that happen? It doesn't happen just for nothing. And we know that Hanukkah happens on Kislev. And Kislev, there's something in the month of Kislev, in the sign of Sagittarius, that bring um, people under that sign into a kind of, um, let's say, don't worry, be happy, everything will be okay. Complacency. I'm not saying that you could, I'm not saying that people of the sign of Sagittarius are lazy. They're not, but they're complacent. They know they're going to be lucky and they're going to be saved. So what's the problem with them? Many, many times they cannot say no. They do not know how to um, establish boundaries. Most people, when we study the wisdom, the Hebrew letters, and we learn that according to the Hebrew wisdom of the Hebrew letters, the letter Samech, which is the ruling letter of the sign of Sagittarius, Samech means Somech, support, which means I'm supported, God supports me, everything is going to be okay. Sometimes you have to fight for what's right and you have to apply boundaries. And basically, we can understand that there was some kind of complacency among the Jews of Judah of that time, and it took a long time till they started to fight for their faith, for their values. They had to fight for it. We also know that the letter Gimel, Jupiter, is for Jupiter, the ruling planet of Sagittarius. And this is also about fortune, good fortune, and happiness, and everything is great. And that brings you also to complacency. So no wonder that when the Greeks went into the temple in Jerusalem, desecrated the temple, and put statues over there and started the worship of their idols, that was on the 25th day of Kislev. The Maccabees, 3 years later, when they came into the temple, that was also the 25th of Kislev, which means we see over here a tikkun, a correction. When you realize that many times to be a nice, holy, righteous person, you need to raise the flag of no more. I'm not just a nice person. I have to stand for my values. I have to say no, even though it's going to make you upset, because I don't have any choice anymore. The fact that we have to sometimes go out of our comfort zone and fight for the values we believe in, and realizing that without those values, we're nothing. If you don't follow your values, I had a student, may he rest in peace, that he had enormous uh, success in career. He reached in his profession the top of the world. The problem is that he realized one day that he wakes up in the morning and he says to himself in the mirror, "Good morning, Mr. Liar." Because he realized that in order to reach to the top of his profession, he had to lie every day, the whole day, to his customers, to his partners. And he realized that he's dead. He sold his soul to the dark side in order to reach fame, power, and money. And from that moment on, that was a decline. He finally died at the age of 41 because he gave up. He didn't feel he has any reason to live because he was a liar. He killed his soul, and he didn't see any hope for that. We have to understand that in order to be whoever we have to be, we'll have to face those moments in which we have to set the boundaries and to fight for our souls, for our values, for our faith. So the word VaYigash means to collide. It's a collision. It's a collision between our logic, our set of rules of what's supposed we're supposed to be nice people. We're supposed to not making too much waves. But sometimes we have to step forward, set our foot, and say, "This is it. I'm not going to kill anyone, but this is it. I cannot give up my soul. I cannot give up my values. I cannot give up the person I am." And sometimes you have maybe to risk everything you've got. What Yehuda is doing over here, he's basically approaching Joseph. He thinks this is the king of Egypt. The king of Egypt that is basically crazy, according to logically, is crazy. Why is crazy? Because he's blaming the brothers for stuff they didn't do. Okay? And what can he get from them? He is not asking for money. But Yehuda is not blaming him. He's not playing Mr. Right. Learn from him. It's like very easy to go to the place of being right. Did you notice that all the people that are right, they're also miserable and angry and upset, and they're great complainers? There's no value of being right. There's no mitzvah of being right. Okay, remember that. What Yehuda is doing is approaching Joseph with full passion and power because Joseph says, "I'm going to take Benjamin as my slave. You go, you're free to go." And Yehuda realizes that that's his tikkun. He did not fight for Yosef. Well, it says in the Midrash, Vayered Yehuda Amalechav, we spoke about it 2 weeks ago. After Yehuda gave the idea to sell Yosef, the brothers came home and they saw the result of the loss of Joseph, and they saw what happened to Jacob, their father. And now there's a big black cloud over the whole household of Jacob, his family. And who do they blame? They blamed Yehuda. If you convinced us to get him out of the pit and take him back to father, we will follow you. You were our leader. We trusted you. Why did you come up with the idea to sell him as a slave? Yehuda thought that was to save Joseph from Shimon and Levi, who wanted to kill him. But everybody said, "But if you fought for him, we'll stand with you. We won't have to sell him." Yehuda did not believe in his power, in his kingship, in his leadership. That's why he had to go down after that. To go all through all of this weird story of his two sons dying and getting his daughter-in-law pregnant, that was a result. Now Yehuda has his opportunity. He's facing the worst problem of his life now. Now he lost two sons, but now he's losing because when he promised Jacob, I'll take Benjamin. I'll bring him back. I guarantee in this world, in the other world, that he will come back. And now he's not. And he's telling that to Joseph. Simple as that. And what he's saying, verse 32, כי עבדך ערב, chapter 45 in Genesis, כי עבדך ערב את הנער מעם אבי לאמור. Your servant guaranteed for that boy that I'll bring him back to to my father. And if I'm not bringing him back, I'll be sinful in the upper world, in the lower world. So right now I'm offering myself, verse 33, I'm offering myself to you instead of this boy. Let me stay instead of him to be your slave. We know being a slave means you're dead. Which means Yehuda, and what we have over here, why it's called VaYigash, why is it a collision? Because sometimes you have to open your heart, go with what you believe in, and being able or ready to pay the whole price just for that. That idea of Hanukkah, that we can see through the whole story of Hanukkah. Here we have the Maccabees. They were priests. Priests are not supposed to hold the sword. They're not supposed to kill anyone. They're supposed to bless the people. Now they hold the sword and they call for a holy war. Against whom? Against an empire, a Hellenistic empire, that they made warfare science into science, and you're just a bunch of priests, people of the study, the book. How are you going to fight against them? But they say, if I cannot be the person I am, if I cannot serve God, I don't need my body anymore. Because I have my body only for one purpose. So I can lift my body to God and not that my body takes over. Same story in Hanukkah, same story of Yehuda. But there's a deeper meaning. And the deeper, first of all, is that how do we create miracles? Look, second earlier, as it says, VaYigash Yehuda. And Yehuda is colliding with Joseph. He's willing to risk everything. He's saying, please, send them home, leave me here. I'm willing to sacrifice myself. I'm bringing myself as an offering. Benjamin is young. I'm older, wiser, stronger. I'll be your slave. Just to save what he believes in, which means he promised Jacob to return Benjamin home. He, by the way, the same time he repents for selling of Joseph, now that he's placing himself as a slave. In that moment that he's ready, now we have this most powerful verse ever. Chapter 45, verse 1, ולא יכול יוסף להתאפק לכל הניצבים עליו. And Joseph cannot hold on anymore in front of all people present. So he announces everybody out. There's a meaning to everything. Everybody out. And Joseph was alone facing his brothers. Verse 2. ויתן את קולו בבכי. And Joseph cries out. וישמעו מצרים וישמע בית פרעה. And the whole Egypt and the house of Pharaoh hears the cry of Joseph. ויאמר יוסף אל אחיו, verse 3. And Joseph says to his brothers, אני יוסף, I am Joseph. עוד אביחי, is my father still really alive? ולא יכלו אחיו לענות אותו, and the brothers could not answer him, כי נבהלו מפניו, they got startled. They didn't expect that. But what is the spiritual meaning over here? Like, was Yehuda so emotionally positive, so Yosef could not hold on anymore? Much deeper understanding for that. What the Zohar is teaching us, we have to understand how the world is structured. We descended from the endless, from the infinite, from the great unity. With the great light of God, we descended down step after step. 10 olamot, 10 worlds. עולם אדם קדמון, עולם אצילות, עולם בריאה, עולם יצירה, עולם עשייה. Each one of them is divided to endless levels and stages. We went down all the way to this dark world that is full of paradoxes, full of darkness, disbelief, lack of faith, everything that can get us confused about who are we and what we're doing here over here. And we fell so low so we can make our way back. The connection between this world and the upper worlds is Sefirat Yesod, is that illumination, that emanation, that frequency that is called Sfirat Yesod. Who is the chariot for Sfirat Yesod? Tzaddik Yesod Olam. The righteous is the Yesod of the world. Who is the righteous over here? Joseph the righteous. Joseph he did exactly, in order to win that title, he did exactly what Yehuda did. When he was in bed with Potiphar's wife, he put a stand. He collided with Yesod. He gave up his well-being, his career, his happiness, his success, his body needs, desires, and cravings and lust, all for one thing, the value of being one with God. When it says that Joseph refused Potiphar's wife, there is a troph above the word that is being read. It's like he went up and up and up and up and collided with the upper world. When does that happen? When we put aside our body needs and we replace it with our real, authentic, true need to ascend, to soar up to the higher heavens. When Joseph did that, he became Joseph the righteous. He became the chariot for Sfirat Yesod. Yes, Jacob brought him to the world to do that, but Joseph had to do that. You do not get free gifts. Abraham did not become the chariot for Chesed just for nothing. The same with Isaac, and the same with Jacob, and the same with Joseph, and the same with Yehuda. They had to do that collision. When you have a collision between your logic and your true self, and you prefer your true self, at that moment you soar. And when you soar, you go up the levels. Click, 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 you go up, up, till you connect Malchut with Yesod. And we connect Malchut with Yesod. When Malchut goes up to Yesod, Yesod cannot hold on anymore. And what is Yesod? Yesod is Tzaddik Yesod Olam. Yesod means foundation. The whole world stands on Yesod. Yesod is a covenant. What does it mean, covenant? Covenant means that you have a commitment, that the commitment is a stronger value than all your immediate physical needs. Okay? A person without a covenant is a lost human being. Why? when you don't have a value, faith to fight for, you're depleted, deflated. You're just a slave to your body, the needs and desires. You're a slave. Yehuda was a slave. He wanted to be okay. So he offered to sell Joseph. He made a mistake because he wanted to be okay. He wanted to be with the brothers. He didn't want Joseph to be killed. He didn't want to be responsible for killing Joseph. He didn't think he's capable of saving Joseph's life and saving their father. Now he's doing that. Now he goes all in. And now he makes it happen. So, so what is Zoe saying? This is a concept that we have to connect to every day. What is the purpose of a human being? Connecting to the value, connecting to God, rising above all the body needs. Not because you have to destroy the body, but you have a body so you can rise above the body. Without rising above the body, what do you have a body for? So when we do that, when we really want to connect to bliss, says the Zohar, let's come to the point when it says, how do we make, or let's say, how do we tap into the source of good fortune and bliss? The true one, not fake. There are people that it looks like they're really blessed. They make a lot of money, they have fame and so on, but if you really know them closely, they're miserable. Why? They're slaves. They're slaves to their logic. They're slaves to their profession. They're slaves to their money. They're slaves to their assets. They're slaves to their fears and anxieties. They're not successful. If you are a slave, you cannot be successful. Only if you are a master. The only way you can be the master is when you have faith and values that are higher than your daily physical needs. And you go by that light, which means, here I can make some more money if I just cheat a little bit. That's not even a question. Here I have to give up the body needs in order to rise to a higher spiritual level. This is what life is about. What happens when you do that? You create a zivug, a union between malchut, the physical reality and the physical frequency, and you raise it up to the divine. That moment, Yehuda, which is the chariot in this story for malchut, for kingship, for this physical kingdom that we are part of, and now you raise it high up and above. That's a miracle. When you raise it high up to and above, you collide with Yesod. You collide with that frequency, that emanation, which is the foundation, which is the tap of all that is good. What happens when you collide with that? It opens up, the tap opens up, and all the bliss flows down. Why? Because we did teshuvah, because we rose above the noise of fears, all those, trying to simply be a slave to all the perception of our daily needs and desires and commitments. And now we soar to the covenant, to our real, true, only commitment, to be creatures of the light. So you can make money, you can have a nice, pleasurable life under this idea, of course. because now you are in control of the two dimensions, the physical, Yehuda, and the spiritual. The Joseph is the gate to the spiritual world. When you collide them, when you're willing to give up everything, unless you can simply join, unite, mate with the spiritual dimension. When you do that, that is basically teshuvah. That is basically when you connect to the Sfirat Yesod with faith, with vengeance, with excitement, with real power that makes you collide with the upper world. That's ascension. You're going up. Now, Yesod cannot hold on anymore. Cannot hold on. And the light comes in. And you know what happens when the light comes in? The darkness goes away. And suddenly you realize that you had a perception that was wrong. And you change the perception overnight. And it's like, how come I didn't think about it before? Yeah, it was there all the time in front of you, but you were in the darkness. How could you see the solution when you've been in the darkness? Our purpose as human beings is to have that illumination daily. And here the Zohar completes. ויגש אליו יהודה, כי יהודה הוא סוד הנוקבה, דהיינו תפילה, ויוסף הוא סוד גאולה. ומשמעין הכתוב שניגשו זה לזה לזיווג. We have so many opportunities daily. And that means when we feel that the logic, the body, consciousness, that all of these noises in our heart and mind, when we overcome them with just the passion to soar and to connect to holiness, we unite with the upper world. That union is the real true purpose of every human life. And we have to do it daily, sometimes hourly, because why do you have 24 hours a day? That it means there's so many opportunities. So in order to really live our life, we need to generate that passion that Yehuda is presenting in front of us. When we have that passion to connect to the true wisdom of light, to the true values, to the true commitment, to the true covenant, we achieve a connection to the upper world. The gate of the upper world is Firat Yesod, represented here by Yosef. What happens? It doesn't matter what happens in the upper worlds. What matters is when you have a passion to connect and you simply collide with Yesod, it opens up. And all the bliss comes down, the true bliss. And then there's an illumination because there's a union right now. There's flow. And then with that light, suddenly, out of the blue, why would I do that? Out of the blue, another solution is coming out of the box. That's the secret of out of the box. You got out to the 8th dimension, Hanukkah, 8 candles. And now everything changes beyond whatever you could expect and even dream about. Why? Because the logic you had is not valid anymore. Another logic is there with everything is so. Did Yehuda pray, even expect to solve the problem with Joseph? No, he wanted everything to be like it used to be till 2 days ago. No, it went back all the time. How many years? 22 years earlier, when he gave the advice to sell Joseph as a slave. Wow. So we don't need to think outside the box. We have to connect to Sfirat Yesod. Then a new logic, a new light arouses and everything is different. We do the same thing every morning. says the Zohar in the morning prayer. We rise up. The purpose of the prayer is to raise ourselves higher and higher. So in the beginning, in the morning prayer, Shacharit, we have the korbanot, the offerings. This is to fix and correct Olam Asiyah, the mundane world. Then we have the praises, and that's raises through Olam Yetzirah, another level. And then we have the blessings of the Shema, and that's Olam Bria. But then we complete with the last blessing of that level, Baruch Atah Hashem Ga'al Yisrael. And as we say that, we go 3 steps backwards, and then we go 3 steps forwards. 1 to Israel, 1 to Jerusalem, and 1 to the Holy of Holies. And then when we stand in the Holy of Holies, we rise to Olam Atzilut, and we start Hashem Sfatai Tiftar, God open my lips. And then you start Filat Amidah, the silent prayer. This is Yehuda colliding with Joseph. You cannot stop over here. You cannot, you just simply gain height and speed during the prayer. When you come to that moment, Gal Yisrael Hashem Sfatai Tiftach, you're rising to Olam Atzilut. You're rising, you're connecting Yehuda and Yosef. You're colliding Malchut and Yesod of Olam Atzilut, and you correct by that all the sins of humanity. Now the light starts to come in. That's the purpose of Olam Atzilut, and that's why from that, when the moment you say Gal Yisrael, you don't talk, you don't speak, you don't say anything, you don't say Amen to anything. You are in Olam Atzilut. Just be with the light. And then you ask. And you ask for, not just yourself, for all. Chonenu chokhmah bina v'dat. Give us wisdom, knowledge, and so on. And then you ask for this, because now you opened the faucet, the tap of bliss and good fortune. And now you simply draw it down to yourself and to the whole world. That's a daily thing. And that's a daily thing every time that we meet adversary, when we meet paradox, when we meet a problem, and we stop the noise in our brain, in our heart, and we say all of this is just for one thing, teshuvah. We fell too far away, and now we have to go back. Where to? To faith and love and godliness. And that's how we rise to the greatness of, creating the tikkun. This is basically something that has a secret of how we generate miracles daily. This is Chanukah. This is Parashat VaYigash. Just remember, after reaching such a height, and now they're united, Joseph is the ruler. The 12 brothers, all of them together, they're finally one, because they were not. It's the first time they united together with their father. And now they united as chariots for all 12 signs of the zodiac. The seed is there for humanity to rule astrology, to rule destiny. What a height. And then we'll read the next Parashah. They rise even higher. Jacob rises even to prophecy. Like never before and never after, only 2 people rose to that level of prophecy, Jacob and Moses. But that was also the beginning of the Egyptian exile. That was so horrible, so much suffering. Why? You reach the heights of illumination, and now you have to go to the next level. And what do you see first in the next level? What's broken? What's disconnected? The exile. You cannot have a redemption without exile. You cannot have the sunrise without sunset. So we have those 2 opposites in this parasha. And we also changing from the miracles of Hanukkah into the heaviness, hardworking, materialistic Capricorn, Tevet. Always when you are in Capricorn and you connected to the physical aspect, you have to break that now you need a greater miracle. Why? Because in Capricorn, physicality, the rules of physicality, the dry logic, they're so powerful. It's the empire of Capricorn, the empire of reason, the empire of five senses, physical stuff. You need to have physical stuff. You can't trust miracles. Capricorn, they don't trust miracles. Oh, Sagittarius, they only trust miracles. Capricorn, no, I have to work hard. And if I didn't work hard, I have to work harder. Now, coming into Capricorn, all of that power that we got in Hanukkah and in Sagittarius, all the power of VaYigash, we need to apply because it's so hard to raise Malchut, raise physicality, Capricorn, and turning it into that pure spiritual union with God. And that's what we're here for. Now, as we said before, there's also a collision between Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David. That we are in the midst of that transition between humanity saying now, life is very clear, scientifically, logically, we figured everything out. We don't need God for that. We have science. We have the religion of science. Most people, I'll tell you the truth, as I was raised as a scientist, most people talk in the name of science and they have no idea what science is about. Most people, like, they declare scientific stuff that is not valid for years already, for decades. But it serves the agenda. The agenda that what? The Capricorn agenda, it's all physical. There's no spiritual. Spiritual is nonsense. That's the lower aspect of Capricorn. The higher aspect of Capricorn is true, powerful wisdom. But you have to take the physical in its depth and power. And that's what we are facing. Humanity has never been so powerful physically. We have knowledge on the physical plane like never before. We have fortune and assets on the physical plane like never before. And it's all saying, oh, that's your refuge. That's your certainty. This is your redemption. And it's a false redemption. The materialistic culture, religion of today, you don't need God. You don't need to soar. Your soul does not need to rise into godly dimensions because they don't exist. On one hand, we solved so many of humanity's problems. Most of plagues are not there anymore. We have antibiotics. We have so much knowledge. Miracles. People will have diseases today. They get hurt. They go to the hospital and it's fixed, like fixing Lego. I don't know. So why aren't we happy? Why aren't we a happy society? And the answer is because we don't have a godly vision to die for, or basically to live for, to offer our physicality in order to achieve a vision that is greater than life. And without that, we are dead, simply dead. And that's why You see, the most material the culture is Europe, Japan, the US, Canada. The more depression, the less children, the less desire to simply say, as Rabbi Ashlag is saying, the founder of the Kabbalah movement, when you're happy and you feel fortunate that you live in this amazing, miraculous life, you have the need to share it. And one of the ways to do it is to have more children, to share your excitement about life with others. But when your life is miserable and you feel that you're born by mistake because you don't appreciate life, because you don't feel alive, you don't want to bring children to the world because you don't want them to suffer as you do. It's all about that collision that happens when we rise up and above logic, physicality, reason, the physical dimension, and we go and we soar up to collide with the spiritual dimension of this world. How do we do that? When we study the Zohar, when we study spirituality, when we train ourselves by meditation, we train ourselves, we train our brain. Science is teaching that. To be able to soar to places of enlightenment. And when you reach that place, your brain is shifting to another mode. And therefore, when you're in that mode, your brain has different perspective, different solutions that can be measured today. It's called neurotheology. Scientists started to research when people have a theological like experience with God. Does that change their brain? Oh, yes, it does. When you train yourself daily, you can do it daily. And then you have two brains. Then you have the primitive brain with the fears, fight, flight, freeze mechanism. And when all of that materialistic stuff, heavy stuff controls you and it kills you, because that gets you into pressure, and the pressure destroys your insulin level and your cortisol level and your endorphins and serotonin and all of that stuff. It messes up your system. Or you soar to the world of vision, values, godliness, and then it's a different world in the same body. But then the body reacts differently because it collided with the heavenly godliness. And then, wow, where have I been? Why did I think like I did? Yeah, because there's dark physical reality and there's an enlightenment. And enlightenment is not just about knowing more science. This is very valuable, not enough. So this fight is within each one of us, and this fight is all over the planet till we can finally see the Messianic era coming and when we acknowledge the presence of God in our lives. Thank you so much.